Even though some Republican-controlled states have already passed legislation this year to curtail the voting rights of their citizens, it's apparently not enough. And right now, we have Republican-controlled states across the country, including those that have already passed the bills, working on even more legislation to make it harder to vote ahead of the 2022 midterms. Two of the worst offenders right now are Georgia and Florida. Again, both of them have already passed restrictive voting laws this year. And there are even more on the horizon. One of the big things that one of the pre-filed bills that's coming up for deliberation in Georgia this coming year, one of the things it would do is it would eliminate ballot drop boxes almost altogether. And they know that the ballot drop boxes accounted for most of the voting by mail, and of course, most of them in predominantly black areas that also tend to skew heavily towards the Democrats. They've also, this was recently announced this week, they've taken one Democrat-controlled area and they've reduced it down to one polling station because they say that will make it easier to vote. Let me read this from CNN. 4 states already have pre-filed at least 13 bills for the 2022 legislative sessions that would make it harder to cast a ballot. And in 5 states, 6 pre-filed bills would allow audits or reviews of election results as former President Donald Trump and his allies continue to baselessly attribute his 2020 loss to election fraud. In addition, some 88 restrictive bills that were introduced but failed to become law in 9 states this year are expected to carry over into legislative sessions set to begin early next year. Because this is the only way they can win elections. Republicans cannot have successful elections by running on the issues. Because when you break down the issues for the American public, they overwhelmingly skew to the left. When you separate it from political party or politician, the public as a whole supports things like taking action on climate change, taxing the wealthy, Medicare for all, debt-free college. You know, those far left progressive ideas are actually very popular among the general public. And that's why Republicans know they can't win, because they're against all of that. Not to say that the Democratic Party as a whole is for it, but they're closer to being for it than the Republicans are. So Republicans go to things like this. They go to the culture war issues. We saw that in Virginia this year. They ran against critical race theory, and it seemed to serve them very well, even though that wasn't an actual thing that was happening. So they can't win on issues. They rely on the culture war, and then the icing on the cake, of course, is the voter suppression. And it doesn't matter how many pieces of legislation they pass to suppress the vote, they're always going to come up with new schemes and therefore introduce new legislation to curtail it even further. That's what we're seeing now. That's what we're already expecting based on these pre-filed bills to happen in early 2022. And if the Senate can't get their crap together and pass that John Lewis Voting Rights Act, then the 2022 election will have already been legally stolen by the Republican Party.